There's fun in learning around the bend. You could even do it with your best friend. If there's science stuff that you like to know, come watch Allie and Coco's Science Show.
Hey guys, welcome to Allie and Coco's Science Show. Today, in honor of Halloween, we are doing Allie and Coco's SciCinema because I love scary movies. And today, we are doing the horror classic, Frankenstein. Get it? Because, no, it's not, they're not cogs, it's a screw. Oh no. So, we're gonna talk about the 1931 film, the original novel written by Mary Shelley in 1818, and then some of the science behind it. What was real? What did they talk about in the movie? And is that real? And, can it be done? What's happening today? So let's first talk a little bit about Mary Shelley. She began science fiction. Without Mary Shelley's novel, I don't know where we'd be today as far as science fiction goes. Like, I love Star Wars. And without Mary Shelley, would I have Star Wars? I'm not sure. Mary Shelley's the founding mother of science fiction. And she originally published her novel anonymously because as a woman, readers are going to be more critical toward her. And then she came forward and said, I'm the author. I'm Mary Shelley, which is a big deal in the 1800s, the early 1800s. And you still see that today. In fact, J.K. Rowling originally published the Harry Potter books as Joanne Rowling, but her publisher said, I don't know if boys will read it, so we want you to go by J.K. because then they don't know it's for sure a woman. You're right, Colette. We need to make a change because that is messed up. So now let's get into the plot of the film, shall we? So, it opens up with a shocking warning. What you're about to see may terrify you, kind of stuff. Which back in the day probably was pretty terrifying to see what happened in this movie. So it opens up with Frankenstein and his henchmen waiting for funeral attendants to leave so that he can dig up a freshly buried body for his experiment. They find out that the neck is broken, so the brain is useless. So there's some cutoff to what brains are usable. Then they sneak into a brain lab, and there's a bunch of brains sitting in liquid, and they steal a brain from this class. And one thing that Frankenstein mentions is he says there's no blood, there's no decaying, and it has a brain and a handmade body. So basically, if you're not decaying and you got a brain, you could be alive. Frankenstein talks about he experimented with animals, he kept a human heart beating for 3 weeks, and now he's gonna bring life to this body. So, there's a storm coming. They pull the body up. They pull the body up. It gets electrocuted. They pull it down, and that's when it happens, Colette. No, Coco. So Frankenstein's monster is scared of fire. He sneaks out, and turns out he lives next to this family farm for quite a while. The monster does. At the same time, Frankenstein gets engaged to this girl and all that, and they're preparing for a wedding, and the cutscene, the monster sees a little girl throwing flowers in the water. It looks cute, and he tosses the girl in thinking she'll float, and she dies. Yeah. The bride, it's wedding day, the bride's freaking out, and they lock her in a room, and then they hear that the monster is like coming toward the wedding. And she's still screaming. She's screaming a lot, Colette. The room that they locked her in is where the monster is, and he tries to grab her and it's crazy. Okay, so while this is happening, the farmer is bringing his dead daughter and she's been murdered, want justice. And Frankenstein is like, oh shoot, we gotta get rid of my monster. And then the whole town, they grab the torch and pitchforks. And so Frankenstein runs up the mountain ahead of the town and finds the monster there. They kind of get in a little scuffle. Long story short, the monster gets into the windmill and they set it on fire and he dies. Just kind of looking at Mary Shelley and such. It was considered in her time to be the modern version of Prometheus. And Prometheus was this Greek mythology where a titan created man from clay. In our instance, it's a dude making a makeshift dude out of random body parts. As the story goes, Mary Shelley came up with the idea. It was all a rumor. She was on a train through Germany and they trained by Frankenstein Castle.
Frankenstein.
At the time, there's an alchemist living there named Johann Conrad Dippel. And it was rumored that while he was studying alchemy, he was also studying anatomy. So he would dig up dead bodies and do experiments on them, kind of like our guy Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
One difference between the book and the movie that I think is really interesting is that the book is all from the monster's point of view. So when you hear from the monster's point of view, he's very intelligent and articulate and has all these deep philosophical thoughts. One could also see this as a warning theme to science, like has science gone too far kind of thing? Could a harmless looking or even beneficial experiment lead to a terrible monster or hurting of many people? Now let's get into science. Yeah, it was great for its time. Like when this book was written, they were still like shoving leeches on people to cure their blood issues. So the question is, can this happen in real life? Can we create life from different parts and can it sustain itself? What's plausible here? Great idea, Miss Coco. So, we know that like defibrillators can reanimate hearts in our desperate time of need, like the heart just stopped beating. If organs stop for too long, they definitely wouldn't be able to start working just because you shot them with lightning and keep working. Yeah, true, Colette. Lightning is a lot of electricity. I'm surprised the monster wasn't like a charred piece of way toasty bacon. So Frankenstein even mentioned when he's looking for a good brain that they need a fresh one. So there's obviously a cutoff point when a brain is no good anymore. Yeah, Colette, there has actually been those odd experiments. So there's this guy, Giovanni Aldini, who was alive and experimenting on animals and people in the 1800s. He would receive whole or parts of animals and shock them and make them move. Like, I'm talking like a little twitch of the eye, a little twitch of the leg. He'd take these experiments on the road and just kind of show people like a sideshow, like, hey, I can make this frog's leg twitch. And that was crazy to people back then. They were shocked. Yeah. I'm actually so glad and also so that you asked that. Scientists and surgeons have been trying to get a better understanding of organ transplant. Beginning in like the 1900s, they were also working with head transplants. It's this French surgeon named Alexis Carrel and this American dude named Charles Claude Guthrie tried grafting the head of one dog to a living second dog. If you're squeamish in any way or you don't like looking at animal experiments because they make you sad, look away for 4 seconds starting now. Hi, we're back. Hi, yes. Yeah, that kind of stuff, it upsets me, but at the same time, Colette, it wasn't just to see, can I get a working second dog head onto this first dog head? They were actually very important discoveries because it led to learning how to better transplant organs into our own bodies or animals' bodies. Then in the 1950s, this Russian guy, Vladimir Demikov, worked on grafting the front of one dog and the back of another. And this led to successful coronary bypass surgeries. He ended up keeping one of his dogs alive for about a month, which is really hard to do in these kinds of experiments. And they died because the organs, they rejected the transplanted organ. Also, there's this dude about 8 years ago who's taking human brains and putting them in robots. And that's probably the most Frankenstein it's gonna get. Wait, Colette, I've got one more very important discovery. It's about the creation of all life on this planet in the history of time. Stanley Miller and Harold Urey recreated what the Earth was probably like billions of years ago. I know. This was basically, the world was volcanoes, which created gas, some water, and storms. There was no life, no plants, no animals, no puppies, no bacteria. There was nothing. Basically, these scientists, they had the water and gases in this multi-chamber. So they had water, and then the gases were like hydrogen, ammonia, thank you, and methane. Then they electrocuted it, which was a storm, and then over the course of a few days, a brown liquid started forming. Turns out the gases on the planet plus energy created amino acids. These amino acids are a micromolecule that can form into proteins and later created all the life on this planet. It was a very important experiment, and it shows that electricity, in a way, can begin life. This is the origin of life, Colette, this experiment. As the movie goes, I give it 4 stars. It wasn't very scary and it was a little goofy at times, but it's a classic. Now, for science purposes, I'm gonna give it 2 Erlenmeyer flasks. The science wasn't necessarily accurate, but it calls upon and leads to many different experiments that are so important in our life today. So it's not really about bringing human monsters to life or anything of that nature, but we've made some headway in keeping body parts functioning. So for the question of the week, I want to know, what type of monster scares you the most? I personally get really freaked out by zombies and aliens because yikes. Colette, the vet's there to help. So don't forget to comment down below what type of monster scares you the most. And also, if you have any science-y movie suggestions, leave that in the comments down below. I'd love to review those. Give this video a thumbs up if you love scary movies or you love cute puppies. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell down below. Links, as always, are in the description. That includes our social media, our Patreon, and links to articles and experiments that we talked about today. So now go on, watch Frankenstein, have a happy Halloween, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys!